Mr. Chair. If I observe accurately, I may be the last senator to ask some questions, and I may ask for an indulgence of an extra minute or two to not just questions, but begin by addressing Mr. Willingham. I see you. I hear you. I feel you. I appreciate an observation, commentary you made just a few minutes ago about the senators up here on the dais, and by and large, I agree. I think this committee has done a tremendous amount of work in diversifying the federal judiciary to confirm nominees to the federal bench that are much more diverse than has been the case in the past, to bring important perspectives, not just from a gender, ethnic perspective, but professional experience and life experience, and many of us are actively working to, over time, further and better diversify the United States Senate and Congress as a whole to bring more perspectives and life experience, because I share yours. When I get home, I invite you to Google Pacoima, California, 1980s, because that's where I grew up. If you really want me to describe it, years ago, there was this movie, Boys in the Hood. You might have heard about it. More recently, Straight Outta Compton. I didn't grow up in Compton, but just watch those opening scenes and you get a flavor for where and how I grew up. Just so you know, that perspective is present up here on the dais. Mr. Chair, as you know, because I talk about it often, I'm not just here as a United States Senator, I'm here as a father of 3 school-aged children. And so my heart remains broken for the families and the friends of the victims in Uvalde, Texas. And as we continue to learn more about how law enforcement responded to the active shooter and more about the school security apparatus, there's a lot to unpack there still, but we cannot let that distract from the underlying issues of unfettered access to guns. So that's why I too am encouraged by the progress that seems to be being made on a bipartisan basis here in the Senate, and look forward to supporting the legislative framework that was announced this last weekend that will, among other things, close the boyfriend loophole that Senator Klobuchar talked about, invest significantly in mental health, and I have a question on that here in a minute. Would also enhance background checks for buyers under the age of 21, among other things. Senator Murphy on our side of the aisle has done a tremendous job, and I want to give credit to Senator Cornyn, who spoke earlier, for leading the Republican side of these negotiations, because we do owe it, not just to the community of Uvalde and the families there, but for the communities across the country who have for too long been impacted by senseless gun violence. We owe it to them to take action, and what I am confident we will achieve here in the days and couple weeks ahead will still leave us with more work to do. It will still leave us with more work to do. My first question is in regards to access to guns. Over the years, we've seen a growing threat posed by at-home kits used by many to build untraceable guns. So we're talking a lot about retailers and how old you have to be, background checks, etc. But ghost guns are a growing challenge. Less than 1 week after the tragedy in Uvalde, a 16-year-old boy was arrested in Berkeley, California, my home state, following reports that he was attempting to recruit students to attack a local high school. Upon searching his home, officers found parts to build rifles, they found explosives and various knives, all of which he had legally attained. Shortly thereafter, officers also arrested a 17-year-old boy in Menifee County for threatening to shoot up a school and being in possession of a ghost gun. My question, Chief Williams, I see you nodding, is for you. In your written testimony, you state that Congress must ensure that law enforcement has the tools and authorities it needs to mitigate the threat posed by privately manufactured firearms. Besides establishing a penalty for possessing a ghost gun, what else would you urge Congress to do?
Senator, thank you for that question. It's actually a very good question. We have a strong partnership with the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, or the ATF. Local and law enforcement, because of our resources that we don't have, we have to engage more with the ATF. So Marvin Richardson, if I may put that on the record, has been an amazing lead in that cause. What I would advocate in answering your question is creating dynamics where we are able to, as law enforcement, trace those ghost guns and trace those parts that go to make the ghost guns. And once that tracing happens, be able to link that person and strongly prosecute them.
So, thank you. And may have some follow-up on that topic, but I do want to just add for the record that California is one of the states that does have an assault weapons ban that is seeking to raise the age of being able to purchase a firearm from 18 to 21 and other protections. And as a result, there's 8.5 gun deaths per 100,000 population in the state of California, 38% less than the national average, which is 13.7, and approximately 40% less than it is in Texas, where it's 14.2. So yes, smart gun safety laws do work, but they're not as effective as they can be when it's only state by state. We need federal protections. And by the way, Californians are 25% less likely to die in mass shootings. Now, the other issue I wanted to raise, Mr. Chair, is in regards to mental health. Now, I have to confess, when I heard the framework that was announced last weekend, without an assault weapons ban, without a ban on large capacity magazines, and such an emphasis on mental health, I paused initially. In a time when we're statistically averaging over one mass shooting a day, more mass shootings in America this year than days on the calendar, we have to pause and consider the trauma-inducing effects that these weapons and the violence that they create have on our children and on our communities, especially following school shootings. Dr. Szilagyi, your organization joined others in declaring a national state of emergency in children's mental health last year. And among the list of recommendations you all released is a call to increase federal funding so that we're better able to screen, diagnose, and treat mental health needs of children. Can you discuss specifically how this would benefit children who have been exposed to gun violence?
Thank you very much for that question, Senator Padilla. Yes, we did declare a national health emergency in children's mental health, and it was jointly declared by us, the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, and the Children's Hospital Association, because mental health problems are at epidemic proportions among our youth, and they've only been getting worse. I think that increased funding so that we can diversify our workforce, as Mr. Willingham noted, train and educate the current workforce that we do have to do this work a little bit differently in a trauma-informed way, in a way that is culturally humble, so that we can use the tools that are out there. There are evidence-based tools for screening and assessment, for diagnosis, evidence-based interventions for treatment, for families that we do identify or children we do identify who are struggling and who have difficulties. I would also just like to point out that those with mental health problems are far more likely to be victims of violence than to perpetrate violence, and that a forensic analysis done in 2019, looking back at all the mass shootings in America back to 1966, found that 100% of those who perpetrated mass shootings in schools all had significant trauma histories. They grew up in violent homes, they were abused and neglected, they were bullied, and they had high levels of community violence, or some combination of those factors. So I think having the right tools will help us. We also do need more funding for community-based health centers, as was noted today, school-based mental health, and integrated care in our primary care settings. I think there are a lot of things we can do. I think everybody in this room knows that a complex problem doesn't have a simple solution, and I think all the multi-pronged efforts around improved mental health services, building safe schools that are physically safe and emotionally safe, sensible gun laws, and safe gun storage are all components of that complex.
My wife, Angela, is a mental health advocate, so she's educated me well, and I thank you for your comments. Mr. Chair, I'll just end with this. I mentioned that when I first heard the framework, I had the pause of such a focus on mental health, which look, it was a crisis before the COVID-19 pandemic. It's been made much more acute, particularly for young people, over the last couple of years. And what more than convinced me to support the framework was an interview I saw just a few days ago. One of the teachers that survived in Uvalde, and for the life of me, his name is escaping me at this moment, but when I saw him on national news apologizing to the parents of the community in Uvalde to please forgive him. He did everything that he could. Reminded me that after a mass shooting for years and years and years, such a focus on mental health is used to distract from the gun safety side of the conversation. Mental health, could we have prevented this? Could we have identified a troubled young person? I get it, that's part of a conversation. That alone isn't the solution, but I saw this teacher pouring his heart out, and I said, the parents of the children who died are gonna need help. The children who survived are going to need help. The teachers who survived are going to need help. The whole community is going to need ongoing help. We need as many resources invested in all areas of mental health that you described and more. And we hope we're on the verge of doing exactly that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Padilla. This hearing is coming to a close.